Martha lived alone. A small cottage at the edge of the village. Her children, all grown, had moved to the city. Letters came, but visits were rare. Loneliness was a constant shadow. But Martha wasn't truly alone. Joe, her faithful Labrador, was always by her side. Big, gentle Joe. He was her eyes, her guide, her family. Martha's world had shrunk to the walls of her cottage and the cobbled lane outside. Blindness had stolen her sight, but it couldn't touch the warmth of Joe's love. He was her anchor, her connection to the world beyond. Martha's hand rested on Joe's head. She stroked his soft fur. "You're a good boy, Joe," she murmured, her voice filled with love. Joe thumped his tail against the floor, his way of saying he understood. He always understood. Every morning Joe would wake Martha gently. He'd nudge her hand with his nose, a silent reminder that it was time for breakfast. Joe would patiently guide her to the kitchen, his big body a reassuring presence beside her. After breakfast, Joe would lead Martha on their daily walk. He knew the way by heart, every twist and turn of the lane, every bump and dip in the cobblestones. He'd stop at the crossings, waiting patiently for Martha's command before guiding her safely across. Joe was her protector, her guardian angel in a furry coat. Their walks were more than just exercise, they were a ritual of love and trust. Joe, with his keen senses, would alert Martha to the sounds of the village, the cheerful chatter of women at the well, the rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer. He brought the world to life for her. The storm arrived suddenly, a raging tempest that lashed the village with wind and rain. Martha huddled inside her cottage, the wind howling like a banshee outside. Joe, sensing her fear, pressed his large body against her legs. He was her comfort, her rock in the storm. As the hours passed, Martha's anxiety grew. A strange numbness was spreading through her body, a chilling premonition of danger. She tried to call for help, but her voice was a mere whisper, swallowed up by the roar of the storm. Fear tightened its grip on her heart. What if she was alone, helpless? Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through Martha's chest. She gasped, clutching at her heart. She was going to faint. She slumped back against the chair, her world fading to black. Joe, sensing the gravity of the situation, let out a whimper of distress. He had to do something. He had to get help. Joe nudged Martha's limp hand with his nose, but she didn't respond. Panic surged through him, but he knew he couldn't give in. He had to be strong for Martha. He had to get help. He remembered the doctor's clinic at the other end of the village. He had been there with Martha before. He knew the way. With a determined bark, Joe dashed out of the cottage, braving the fury of the storm. The wind tore at his fur. The rain lashed against his eyes, but he pressed on. He had to reach the doctor, had to save his beloved Martha. His heart pounded in his chest, every beat a prayer for Martha's safety. Joe's journey was a blur of wind and rain, of slippery cobblestones and howling gusts. He stumbled, he fell, but he never gave up. The thought of Martha, helpless and alone, fueled his every step. He was her lifeline, her only hope.